Hello everyone, this is Kathy Grosskirth with Bookkeeping Clean and Simple here in Austell, Georgia near Metro Atlanta. And today I want to talk a little bit about the use of these standard workflows in both QuickBooks Desktop and online versus using general journal entries. Now I will preface this by saying that there are times when using general journal entries are appropriate or even ideal. The first one being that the apportioning of depreciation and or amortization at year's end should most likely, in most instances, be a general journal entry, because a lot of times those are done at year end, even though some accountants, CPAs, bookkeepers, etc. will do those on a monthly basis, but generally those are done by general journal entry. Another circumstance where using general journal entries in QuickBooks Desktop or online is ideal is when you're making year-end adjustments. For example, if a payroll crosses over a accounting cycle and you need to adjust for an accrual-based business, to adjust books to tax, and also when you're having to allocate resources such as phone and utilities, etc., office space, that kind of thing. General journal entries are ideal for those types of situations. Now, before I get into the problems with the general journal entries, I want to show you what they look like in both the desktop and online platforms. As you can see, I am in the desktop file for Larry's Landscaping and Garden Supply. This is a sample company, and I am in the QuickBooks Accountant Desktop 2021 platform. And as you can see, I have an open general journal entry page here where you can actually enter the data to enter your account, and they have to be offset. A little bookkeeping 101, you have to have a debit corresponding with a credit. And in the case of an account that you want to maybe do would be depreciation expense, if they even have that in here. I didn't even look to see. So here we go. So you say you want to allocate depreciation, and then accumulated depreciation would be in here as well, if they have that set up that way. And I don't know if they have that in here, but that would be what you can actually allocate that to, but I don't see it in here. But you can always add it on the fly. So anyway, your depreciation expense maybe for one of your assets is $5,000. And I'm not going to enter this in, but they have to balance out. That's the main principle of accounting, is that two or more transactions are entered that offset one another. You can put your memos in here. But as you can see, the only thing that you can assign to a general journal entry in desktop is you can make it billable, but you can't make it billable to a particular, and I don't even think you can do that because it's showing here you can't really, there's really no way to make it billable because you can't tag it to a customer or a vendor or anything. You can assign a class to that if you have classes turned on, but that's about all you can do. So that's the limitation of a general journal entry in QuickBooks Desktop. So basically, you cannot assign or use items either because you have to tag it to an account, and you cannot attach a billable expense, even though it shows you that they have a billable column here. There's really, and let me just check that out. Yep, because there's no way for me to add columns, and this is it. So you cannot even put a check mark in it. So you really cannot assign items, and you cannot attach a billable expense. The only thing that you can do is you can assign a class. So let's switch over to QuickBooks Online and see the differences. So now we're in QuickBooks Online, and you can actually access the general menu by clicking on this plus new button in the left here, and then going down here to journal entry under the other column. which opens up the general journal entry. Now there's a few differences here that I should mention. Okay, so you still have the account, you still have the debits and credits. And let's see if they have depreciation here, which they do as another expense, which that's really incorrect. And then as you can see, you can add this on the fly as well. And so this is not a bank, so this is actually a fixed asset. And I'm not going to do anything else with this, but I'm going to go ahead and save and close. And I'm not going to enter this transaction either. I'm just showing you that you can do this. Again, you have to make sure that it all balances out. This depreciation expense offsets this accumulated depreciation. But in QuickBooks Online, as you can see, not only can't you use items, not only can't you attach a billable expense, but you cannot assign a class or a location in QuickBooks Online when you're entering a general journal entry, which can cause some problems, which I'll talk about here in just a bit. So let me switch back to our main screen. Okay, so I'm back in our main screen, and to kind of sum everything up, general journal entries are ideal for basically two types of situations. Apportioning depreciation or amortization at year's end, and number two, making year-end adjustments for payroll, phone, utilities, etc., in order to get those balances accurate for year-end, that kind of thing, for taxes and that sort of thing. Now, problems with general journal entries, as you can see, especially in QuickBooks Online, you cannot assign class or location. Now, you can do so in QuickBooks Desktop, as I showed you, but you cannot use items, which is a problem if you are using item-based reports. You want to include items where you can. And then you also cannot attach billable expenses in either QuickBooks Desktop or Online. So those are the problems with general journal entries as a matter of course. So now let's talk about what you do if you want to enter certain things in QuickBooks Desktop and Online that you normally use a general journal entry for. Okay, so we are back in our QuickBooks Desktop file, and as you can see here, we have showing the home page, and as you can see here, we have the standard workflows depicted in here, and to a lesser extent, we have the same thing in QuickBooks Online. But in QuickBooks Desktop, it shows you the order in which you put these things in order for everything to work out. For instance, I'm not going to worry about the purchase orders. What I will do is I will actually go down here and click on an invoice, and that way I can show you. And this is also included when you're setting up a company. You're not going to want to make a bunch of general journal entries to show your outstanding accounts payable and accounts receivable. You're going to enter the invoice. And again, the reason why you want to do that is you can assign a class. And then you can also use the double-sided items. So when you're entering all that in. And then it shows the item code, but you want to make sure, because all the items are tied into your chart of accounts, and that way you can use your items-based reports to actually show you what you're selling the most of or what you're buying the most of, that kind of thing. So that's what you want to do. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of that. We're going to go back to enter bills, and this is kind of important, is if you're using double-sided items and you want to tag a customer job to what you're buying. So for instance, not only can you use the expenses tab, but in most cases you're going to use the items tab, which you have tied in to your chart of accounts. So that way you can use those double-sided items. So let's say we're buying soil for a job, okay? and you want to make this billable, but you have to fill out the customer job. Let's say we want this to be for Adam's Candy Shop, which is the first one. You put a check mark there unless you have preferences set up to automatically mark that as billable. You can also assign a class here. But the main thing is, in this instance with the bill, you're also allocating this to the customer job and passing that cost on to the customer job, because when you do the invoice later, you can pull all that in. Okay, so that's the important thing of that. So let's go ahead and switch gears again. And now we're going to do something similar in QuickBooks Online. Under the Getting Things Done tab, we can click on it and you can see some shortcuts. So we can do the same thing. I'm not even going to worry about the invoice right now. I'm just going to go ahead and click on Add Bill, and you can actually do this under the New button here and do it that way. But if you have, this is kind of the home page, quote unquote, that's in QuickBooks Online. So we're going to go ahead and click on Add Bill. Same concept. You can either use category or items. So you can either toggle between each one of those. And then if you're entering the item, so like we can do the same thing, soul. And then again, you can make that billable to a particular customer. So that way when you do fill out, when you fill out the invoice, it'll allow you to pull those charges in if you want to pass on those charges to the customer. So let's see, the first customer on here is Amy'sburg Sanctuary, and we can make that billable to her. Now I'm not going to save this transaction. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of that, but hopefully you can see what I'm talking about here. So I'm going to go ahead and leave without saving. And let's switch back to our business overview here to sum everything up. So we are back on our business overview screen in QuickBooks Online, and I just want to make a couple of points here. Normally when I see a file that's really messed up, it's usually because someone, usually a bookkeeper who doesn't know what they're doing, or someone who's been taught traditional accounting to use general journal entries to fix things, and that's really not what you're supposed to do in either desktop or online. So problems with those general journal entries, again, you cannot assign a class or location in QuickBooks Online. And number two, you cannot use items to attach to certain transactions using a general journal entry, which means item-based reports are not going to be accurate to that extent that you use general journal entries to enter stuff in. And number three, you cannot attach billable expenses in general journal entries. But they are ideal for apportioning depreciation or amortization at year's end and making any year-end adjustments that you might make. So when we are talking about using the standard workflows, and I'm going to go ahead and click on the Getting Things Done, you want to actually use what we call the standard workflows using the transactional things. When you're setting up a file from the beginning, you want to make sure that you have any outstanding invoices, you want to enter those individually, any bills that you have individually, any outstanding checks you have individually, and of course there's third-party apps that can help you with some of this as well. And that also includes when you're talking about desktop. And in desktop, it's a little bit more intuitive. It has the standard workflows that they're talking about here, where you enter the bills, and then you would enter the bills against inventory if that's appropriate for your situation, and then make sure you pay the bills. You don't just record a check because you can't match that to the bill that it goes to. So that's kind of where I wanted to end it today. If this is something that I really love training people on, because once you get this, then using QuickBooks Desktop or Online is a snap. So I hope that you learned a lot from this, and if you're interested, please reach out to me. Take care, everybody. Thank you for watching. I would love it if you would like and subscribe to my channel, as well as share it with others. I am adding on average 1 video per week, including the occasional motivational video. I would love nothing more than to help you maximize your usage of QuickBooks Desktop and online. My email is below, as well as the number where you can text me for more information and to set up an initial consult. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.